Hey everybody, welcome back to Gecko Tech and Gaming. I'm Kyle and my background is a little bit bare. I'm in the middle of another really big move right now, but stick around, I have a lot of reviews coming up and I hope you'll enjoy them. Alright, so for this video, I'm coming back to the Vancer ICE. I've pretty much finished up all the testing I need, put it through its paces. I did a lot of Overwatch competitive, and I've kind of come to my conclusions about how I feel about the mouse pad, how it performs, and my personal opinion on it. So stick around, this thing kind of slaps. Alright, so the Vancer ICE, it's made by Vancer. They also make the Vancer Gretzka, a wireless gaming mouse, and they're also on the move. It looks like they're making a new mouse as well. I've seen a couple of videos of them doing some testing and putting it through its paces. Really interesting stuff. Now the Vancer ICE is a flexible cloth pad, but it's pretty unique because it uses fiberglass for the surface material. Now, as far as I'm aware, I don't think that any other major mouse pad players are making their pads with fiberglass, so this one's pretty unique overall. This has a pretty unique feel and look to it. In the right lighting, it kind of has a weird sheen to it, almost like that reflective material that you put on exercise clothes and that sort of stuff. The Vancer ICE actually has a very pleasant feel to it, very smooth on the skin. It's actually very cool to the touch too. Fiberglass as a material has a very low thermal conductivity, which basically means it doesn't heat up very fast. So if you're someone who tends to get really hot, this pad actually feels pretty nice. It's not going to heat up with a lot of use like something like a regular cloth pad might. The rubber base is pretty thick. It looks to be about 4 millimeters, give or take. And I also find that the firmness, it's actually on the firmer side. It's very comparable to like a mid-artisan mouse pad. The mouse pad stuck very well to my laminate desktop. Right now I've got it on a temporary plastic desk with like a little cloth on top. But even on that, it's not budging. It's a very stable base. The edges have a very nice tight weave stitching to them. When I first got it, there was like a little bit of fraying. I ended up just pulling it off, and so far there really hasn't been any other signs of wear that I can see. Overall, pretty confident in the way that the stitching looks. The stitched edges are also very low. They're not raised very much at all, so if you move in your mouse pad closer to the edge, you're really not going to run into it or anything like that. Now, in my initial impressions video, I did mention that the tag in one of the corners seemed like it could have become an issue. However, in my testing, the location of it, I never actually bumped into it at all during regular use. It would be nicer if that tag wasn't there, at least going into the mousepad surface. If it was angled out and away from the mousepad surface, I do think that would largely be better. But I do understand with the way the stitching is, it would probably be a little bit difficult to get it to work that way. But again, I didn't run into any issues with it. I never ran into it with my mouse. I put my mouse pad down so the tag is actually on the top left corner. In gameplay, it was never really an issue, even when I was doing much wider swipes on the mouse pad during really intense gameplay. Now for performance, this thing is pretty dang fast. The Vancer ICE does have just a touch of texture to it, enough that you get a little bit of tactile feedback while you're swiping the mouse on the mouse pad. And with PTFE feet, I'm using core pads as well as default skates on the Pulsar Mini V2. It really feels like the mouse really just kind of glides over the surface. I find that it has just enough control that day-to-day tasks are pretty doable. When it comes to, say, things like double-clicking on a desktop logo, sometimes with really fast pads, when you're double-clicking, even a little bit of that movement, because of how fast some pads are, it actually becomes hard to double-click. It thinks that you're trying to drag it. But with this, I had no issues with that at all. So this isn't necessarily the fastest pad I've ever used, but for me, that's a good thing, because I do like just a touch of control with a lot of speed, and this kind of hits that sweet spot for me. I find that the performance of the Vancer ICE is very, very similar to the Artisan Raiden. The initial and the dynamic friction, as well as stopping power, feel almost identical to it. There are some that were reporting some spin-out issues with the Artisan Raiden, but with the Vancer ICE during my testing, I didn't find any issues at all when it came to accuracy or spin out, that sort of thing. no problems. Now speaking of, there are a few advantages over the Ride-In that the Vancer ICE brings to the table. So first is cleaning. When it comes to artisan pads, you do need to wash them regularly, though not too often, to make sure that the surface performance stays consistent. And with that, that means that you need to get cold water, mild soap, give it a good wash down, nothing too rough, and then let it air dry, which can take a while. If you try and dry it off actively, there's a chance that you could warp the material or something, so air drying is really best for it. Now, the Vancer ICE, on the other hand, I do think you will want to clean this a little bit more often than something like an artisan pad. Something about the fiberglass does pick up like finger smudges a little bit easier than a regular cloth mouse pad, but the cleaning process is just super easy. All you need is the microfiber cloth that comes with the Vancer ICE and a little bit of water. I use distilled water. I have a lot of it that I use for my pet geckos to mist down their cages and make sure they stay hydrated. But just a little bit of distilled water on the pad, just spray it just as touch, wipe it down with the microfiber cloth, and that's it. And on top of just needing water and a cloth, it dries super fast. The next advantage of the Vancer ICE is availability. Now, at least at the time of recording, the Vancer ICE is available on lethalgaminggear.com. It's in stock, easy to buy. There may be other sellers selling it internationally, but Lethal Gaming Gear is where I got my copy from. And it's in stock, ships really quick, no fuss. The artisan pads have been super short and high demand. I've actually been on the wait list for an artisan Ride-In. I have a small one, but I wanted to order an XL. Been waiting for that since May 3rd, I think, and they still haven't arrived at the warehouse at Lethal Gaming Gear. And I don't have a problem with that at all. Like, I totally get it. When I signed up for the pre-order, that was part of the deal. Not complaining. But when it comes to availability, the fact that the Vancer ICE is just right there and it performs very similarly to an artisan Ride-In, you gotta take that into consideration. I think in terms of build quality, the Vancer ICE also feels very good. Now, I will say that the edge stitching on the artisan pads, I prefer that over the one on the Vancer ICE. It's just a little bit tighter and a little bit flatter, and the fact that it doesn't have a tag on it is a plus. But in terms of build quality, durability, it's kind of hard to describe, but it just feels really good in hand. Kind of the same way that an artisan pad feels. It just feels solid, well built. On top of that, Vancer also seems to do a lot of testing on their products. They actually have video of them doing testing processes with this mouse pad, and I would vouch for the quality there. It looks really good. So similar to the artisan Ride-In, I think the Vancer ICE will most likely stand up to the test of time very well. Now, with my only gripe being the tag in the corner, which ended up not actually interfering with use or gameplay at all, there's not a lot to complain about. And the Vancer ICE comes in at $32 MSRP. With a price like that, this is absolutely a very easy recommendation for me, especially for someone that's looking for a very fast pad that does still have just a touch of control still there, so you're not flying all over the place. So this pad is great for anybody who's looking for a real fast pad, but also still wants to retain just a little bit of control there. This thing is excellent. Oh, and as an added plus, even though this mouse pad came rolled up in a tube package, like a tube box, it rolled out flat super quickly. I only needed to do a little bit of reverse rolling on the edges, and it was already flattened, completely flush with my desk, in just like 30 minutes. And that's something that I've seen kind of ruin other mouse pads that otherwise would have been really good. So the Vancer ICE, there's really close to nothing to complain about. The only thing is that tag, like I mentioned, and that was just a non-issue. At 32 bucks, it's very affordable. The size is very generous. It's an excellent pad. Anyway, that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed. Y'all take care, God bless, and I will see you on the next video, okay? Later.